You really can't do both at the same time. If you're expanding, that means you're throwing just about all of the money, all except a couple of months overhead. You're really investing a lot in the expansion. There's no guarantees. It's high risk. It's high stress. And you want to be very systemized and understand exactly what you're doing, because if you try and expand and it's on a little bit of a whim or a kind of, I hope this works, odds on is it's going to fail. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max, I'm your host. I'm the CEO at Smith & Sons here in Canada. Welcome to you if you're a first-time listener. I hope you get through the whole episode and it brings you some value. My apologies if it does not. I am doing my best. Welcome to all our long-term listeners. Good to have you in the house again, and getting lots of feedback from guys and girls about some of the success they find around implementing some of the things that we chat about in the show, and that is good because that's why we do it. That is our oxygen. And it's great to get the feedback too. So look, just on that, if you want to just shoot me a question about something, feel free to hit me up on max@elitebusinessadvisory.com. I'll get back to you ASAP. If you're on YouTube, be sure to leave a comment. That'll hit my inbox, and I will get back to you fairly promptly there as well. What else I got going on? Facebook, Business for Builders, Facebook, Business for Builders VIP. Would love to have you in the group there. There's a few file downloads and a few strategic videos there about systems and processes. So I think you can benefit. And the other thing is too, folks, what we really need is a good group of builders. I am telling you, whatever town you're in, whatever place you're in, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. The opportunity is large, depending on it doesn't matter, despite the interest rate and the inflation deal, there is still opportunities for good building operators. And so if you're listening to this show or you're watching this on YouTube, I would deem you to be a very hungry, discerning, and professional general contractor or builder. And so I want you to be encouraged that there is plenty of opportunity. We just got to join the dots. So, that's what we're all about here. That is probably it. Be sure to get across, check out elitebusinessadvisory.com. If you want to have a quick 30-minute strategy session with yours truly, would love to deep dive into what goes on in your business and see if I can help you in 30 minutes. Figure out some of the gaps in your business, along with a few solutions, and then maybe we can chat about whether or not we join forces and see if we can't take your business from where it is to somewhere more substantial, more leads, more profit, better lifestyle, all that kind of good stuff as well. So to that end, I don't think I've missed anything. To that end, we're going to hit this at a rate of speeds because I have got today, this is part 3 of 3 episodes that we've really focused on, and I got a bit of a bug and I'm like, scalability, that's what we're going to chat about. And of course that just really elongated into now 3 shows. So it's hopefully it's been good. Love some feedback. Questions and queries and concerns around some of that content would be awesome. Because it really does, I sit here because I want to just give value. I want to really give back to the industry that has supported me for 34 years now and really help those who are looking for it at some level from a fairly no-cost 40,000-foot view. But certainly I know this, that for me to really help you excel in the art form that is, developing a construction business, I've got to take into account your personal situation, the marketplace, all of your, the fears and all of the things that you're good at, and really combine that into a bit of an action plan, which brings me to today's title. You're not a builder, but a business development professional. So part 3 of our scalability, what do you call it, Dom? Scalability episodes? Mini-series. Yeah. Sorry. So, anyway, we can maybe just roll with that little roughness. But the little series that we've got going here on scalability, what I've got for you today is 11 action plans, the what and the why. And so again, I will say to you, if you're watching this at home, you could probably take notes. If you're listening to this as you're driving down the highway or working on a building site, you're going to struggle to take notes. So what I would encourage you to do is to hit those 3 dots and save the episode. Then you can go back and revisit this. And as you're developing your plan for your business and, the areas that need attention, this episode might actually help you. So we are going to investigate 11 action plans, the what and the why. And really this stems from, what I talk about as a business coach is the 5 stages or 5 steps to freedom, if you like. And they are, you go through the creation phase, you go into the chaos stage, you go to the control stage, the prosperity stage, and the freedom stage. And so I think with each of those stages or each of those phases, there's action plans that really have a very different impact all along the way in each of those stages. So they just sort of seem to increase in their volatility depending on the size of the business, depending on, the team that you've got in play and things like that. So basically an action plan is a critical component of business development, providing a detailed roadmap for achieving specific goals and objectives, and it becomes relevant in business development activities at several key stages. And so we're going to run through 11 of those. I just want you to know that motion creates emotion. So what we're trying to do, I think I said on the show last week, we don't suffer from lack of ideas. What we suffer from is idea implementation, because there is so much. There is a massive overload. And so I'm going to quickly charge through these 11 points. Hopefully we're not here 2 hours from now. The lights will go out and everyone will go to sleep on me. So I really want to be fairly prompt in getting through these points. So take note and don't be afraid to really dive deeply into each of these and look at your business and what your goals are and how you want to achieve it. And these action plans, the what and the why, may help you. Right. Number 1, setting business development goals. Now, that is probably the most obvious thing that one would do. They're like, okay, well, last year I did, 250 grand. Next year I want to do 600 grand or whatever the case may be. I want to let you know that if your business is growing 20 to 25% year on year, you're actually doing pretty good. I would be very encouraged if I could look at, P&Ls of building companies and see the development of the business year on year as an increase, say, in revenue of 20%. And certainly the bottom line would reflect an increase also. I don't want to see you doing more revenue unless there's a justifiable reason where you've made capital acquisitions or you've done something with team building or what have you that's drowned some of that net profit. But we want to try and maintain that at around about the 10% mark. So, in the outset of business development, an action plan is created to outline the goals and objectives of a company or individual and what it seeks to achieve. These goals can include revenue targets, market expansion, client acquisition, or product or service development. So for us as builders, general contractors, I would expect in the house for the most part, what we're trying to do is probably look at, okay, what is it that I'm going to put up on the board, if you will, and then take action around what is it that I'm trying to achieve, or what is it that I'm doing to try and achieve that business development goal. And so, I think 90 days is a really good, you can start, I think it's the big, hairy, audacious goal is a 10-year plan. There's 3 to 5 year goals. There's 12-month goals. And all the time what we're doing is we're setting those in advance and then reverse engineering. So essentially you can see the levels or the steps you're going to need to go through to really hit those milestones or those targets. So it's super important that we apply some level of definition. I know I've said it before that your business is either growing by design or growing by default. And default is normally not that good because you end up top heavy, spending more money than you're making, not keeping an eye on your fixed expenses, and really not really understanding on things like conversion rates or gross profit margin percentage or even net profit margin percentages, which is some of the ones that we look at. So, every week, matter of fact, every day, and I do run a whiteboard, but it all gets put into spreadsheets, so relax. I'm just a little bit old school like that. But I honestly, when I go into the office early in the morning, and I could be in there as early as 6:30 in the morning, and I've, the jug's boiled and I'm sipping on an espresso, I really do like to look at that whiteboard that is in our kitchen area and just peruse the numbers, if you like, from yesterday, because the numbers only get updated in the morning. And then we look at all of those data points. And so, what we're looking at is we're making sure that we are advertising at an appropriate level. We're making sure that our customer acquisition cost is good. We're making sure that our cost per lead is good. We're looking at our conversion rates across the group. We're looking at our average contract values. We're looking at our inquiry levels. Are they acceptable? And so all of these things really come down to setting those business development goals. Not totally like, hey, I'm going to buy a Ferrari in 3 years. Not that. I'm talking about actual setting business development goals, and that's what I'm talking about. Righto, point number 2. I've got to charge through these. We'll be here all night. Number 2 is market research and analysis. Look, what I did when I first launched Smith & Sons here in Canada is I needed to get some understanding, and I think I just came across. I didn't know about the statistics, and if you're in Canada, you can visit Canadian Home Builders Association and the statistics, and it will tell you most of the time if you're in a decent sized town like we are. It's got a population of about 40,000 people, and it does about $227 million in renos. Now, renos and repairs, and so I like the sound. I like that statistic because before I, got started, I didn't really have any kind of data. But then I soon realized that in the ecosystem that I was playing in, I started to get an understanding of what I call area revenue potential. And so what it did was it gave me a very good understanding of the possibilities. And so it was very easy for me to ascertain what was in my backyard, very locally, but what was in my, what was in the country, what was available. And so there's some pretty significant numbers, in Canada. And what it does, I tell you what it does. I actually sat with a brand new client to be, and he's out of Calgary. And I did ask him, shout out to Matt, and I did ask him, I said, what do you think the reno market's worth in Calgary? And, he was up there. He's like, a couple of million. It turned out to be about 3.6 billion. And so if you're in Calgary, there is more than enough opportunity. And I think what happens is we look around and we maybe think that there's not much available. However, I think what we don't realize is how much is available. And then I think if we built the business, your business, around the possibility, I think we would set ourselves up, if we become more professional in our thought process, more mature in our approach and how the way we see ourselves. And I think I put out a little TikTok post the other day just on that. If you're not into TikTok, make sure you go and check out Business for Builders on TikTok. And there's some good stuff on there. We get a bit of fun had over there. But when I started to realize the opportunity, all of a sudden it does take the pressure off me as far as, there's plenty of fish in this ocean, so to speak. But what it then did was like, okay, it impressed upon me that I had to now increase and improve and get better and maybe invest more and really start thinking about better systems and processes. And because I'm telling you that I'm fairly sure that the opportunity where you are is massive, despite the interest rate hikes and the inflation. There's always somebody making money. I think the C players go out of business whenever there's a recession. But I think the B players step up to becoming A players, or they go to be C players. And then the A players, they capitalize on what's happening in the marketplace. So really what we want to do is just gather the data, analyze market trends, assess the opportunities and the threats. And really this action plan is crucial for organizing the steps involved in the research and analysis process. So to give you some encouragement, if you're in Canada, go and visit Canadian Home Builders Association website. I think it's their national site, and then just Google stats, and you should be able to do a Control F search on that website, and that'll give you some insight as to, really? I'm like, for us in little hick town here, with 40,000 people, and there's $227 million worth of renovations happening, not to mention new homes. I'll be like, okay, I'm pretty sure that I can do a couple of million a year. Like, I'll take my piece of that pie. Thanks very much. It just comes down to connecting the dots with the marketplace and making sure we offer value and we're educational in our approach as far as digital advertising goes. We are consistently, informing and maybe even entertaining, and that people think of us first when they want to go and do renovations, etc. Which brings me, number 3, lead generation and prospecting. So we do it 2 ways, digital and local area marketing. Digital is digital. It is websites and it's social media predominantly. And then, of course, the other options there's some local, there's directories. I wouldn't say Yellow Pages is where you want to go to start with, but that is a directory as such, and there's a few others out there just like that. And those are usually free. But what we're talking about is more often than not website and social media. One of the pieces of advice that I give to the guys, that I'm chatting with, particularly in elite business, because we do a lot of the social media stuff for our Smith & Sons guys, is to, look at ways to develop content that is educational, informative, or entertaining. Now, when you put that out there as organic posts, I know that some of the stuff we do on TikTok, it flops, doesn't work. But then there is some stuff that's, got 800,000 views plus. So you go, okay, that resonated with the marketplace. How come? If it was something that had merit, that could help you in the lead generation side of things, you might want to back that out of organic and then boost that. Or don't do that. Don't boost. We wanted to run sponsored campaigns with ad sets and everything like that. And then because what if it's already resonating organically, it could be a key to creating interest around people or offering a call to action where people take advantage of that. So, generating leads, identifying potential clients or partners is a fundamental part of the business development. So this action plan will detail how leads will be sourced, tracked, and converted into viable opportunities. So we've got to have a very structured approach to what we're doing. So again, if you look at our whiteboard / spreadsheet on how we monitor how the results or the activity in general, so that would be like the investment, whether it's a time or financial investment, and the results, it starts to give me a really good understanding of what's happening across the board. But specifically, we want to really understand what our marketing dollars are. Now, the tricky part with that's easy to do with digital. It's just a little bit easier to monitor the data and track the data and trap the data. Whereas when you're doing local area marketing, like I was at the boys' football on Friday night, and actually I've got to throw that on TikTok too. We've got we sponsor one of the high school football teams. We also sponsor one of the BMX clubs here in town, and also the local hockey team. So what we don't really get is we know what we're spending, which might be, $6,000 or $7,000 or more per year in that regard. But what we don't really get, unless people tell us, and then we don't go, okay, let's attribute that. The other day, actually, we had someone who inquired, and we are, on the Google form, on the website form, it says, how'd you hear about us? And they said, we saw one of your trucks. So we know categorically that the vehicle wrap thing is working. But, some people see the brand, and there's like a 16-foot, Smith & Sons logo on the ice. There's two of them. And if people look at that and they're Googling it, at halftime, they might go across to Google, and they may not actually mention that they saw us at the hockey, which is unfortunate because our data is going to be a little bit, compromised. But nonetheless, I think it's important. It's very expensive. Maybe not as expensive as it once was, but certainly for my guys in town, they all split the cost of all of those local area marketing initiatives I just mentioned. So that makes it very affordable. So super important that, you're doing something in the way of digital. I know some guys that I've spoken with, elite business clients now, don't have a website, which is ironic in this day and age. But they've still got enough word of mouth that's holding them over. So I just still, think that in this day and age, we need to, have a digital reputation at some level. Right, point number 4, client acquisition and relationship building. So the process of converting leads into clients, building long-term or long-lasting relationships, that requires a clear plan. A client and acquisition relationship building action plan will include steps like initial contact, nurturing leads, making presentations, and closing deals. So for us builders, that might refer to a documented sales process. How do we go about, have we got something down, systems, checklists, scripts, if you like? How do we overcome excuses and objections? I was on a call this week with one of my guys, and I was doing, I know that builders get freaked out when I say role play, and I'm with you. If you said to me, let's role play, I'd kind of freak out a little bit. But what I find easy to do is if I'm looking, down the camera at you and your name's Dom, I will use you as the client, and I will put on my builder hat, and I will talk about how I will speak with a client about a bathroom renovation or, a kitchen or a main floor reno or addition or whatever the case may be. And I would like to just highlight some of, in my experience, how, I've come across some of these objections or some of these questions, and I like to sort of help break that down by demonstrating to, either my Smith & Sons builders or my elite business clients, and just give them a bit of an idea as to what I would say, what I would do. And maybe that's something that you would benefit from by, doing business with me as one of my elite business clients. But, the thing is, I don't put on a show. I'm just like, what I want to do as a builder is I want to get to the money. And we don't make much money doing the design plan and quote and takeoff stage, we make our money in construction. And so I'm very black and white as it relates to what is the next thing that I'm going to do with this client. What is the next thing I'm going to do with what that client just told me or just said to me? And so, there's a lot of confidence in how I operate. And matter of fact, tomorrow I'm actually heading out to see a client with one of my guys. And it's a bit of a tricky situation, but it's a couple of hours from town. But I'm going to run the point on that one because the client's been a little bit tricky to deal with. And so anyone that starts doctoring up my contract with no's and why and how comes gets my attention. So that's going to be a pretty interesting little meeting. And just side note, I've had phone calls with that client already. And I said, Mrs. Client, you got to understand that if you are going to insist that you want me to doctor up my building contract, that is a deal breaker for me. You understand, don't you? And so that kind of, I guess when I bring that kind of experience to the table, which is real time, I mean, it's Sunday afternoon, we're shooting this podcast, and that conversation happened just a little over 48 hours ago. And I was actually in the office today shooting her a quick email, making plans for tomorrow, and we're going to be on the road at about 7 o'clock tomorrow. So, I think having a documented sales process is a great way for you to develop your skills, because I would regard that action plan as one of the most important. It's the one that you're solely responsible to execute off the back of. If you're talking about lead generation, client acquisition, things like that, there's a part that lays in the lap of the digital agency marketing gods. But there is, some of that's in the content creator gods, but then there's a portion that's attributed to you. But as it relates to closing deals, we've got to make sure that we've got a very repeatable and duplicable process. I think I talked about last week about the learn, do, teach, and having the apprenticeship type of process. Well, this really plays into this again, whereby if I want to have to bring a project consultant online, then I need to make sure I've got a systemized approach to sales. If I don't have it, how can I bring somebody in that I'm not going to set up for failure? And folks, I had another one of my clients, we're talking about developing standard operating procedures, and we've got a really good system that we're going to develop SOPs for him and his roof contracting business, which is a multi-million-dollar enterprise. And it's done. He's put that together off the back of very little infrastructure. And so, I'm busy working on ways that we can create some leverage for him. And one of those things is definitely in the SOP. So, standard operating procedure as it relates to your sales process is an absolute, an important item. Right. Point number 5. Market entry or an expansion. This one to me resonates because I come to this country about 7 years ago and got the opportunity to launch a franchise brand, which was super overwhelming and challenging and everything like that. And what I had to do was just resort to the basic skills that I've developed over the years, and I knew that one of those things that I had to do is I had to network. And so if you're going to a new area, or if you're increasing the prospective size of your business by way of revenue, then you need to kind of think about doing this. And I definitely know I've got a few clients where they've been used to a little bit of word of mouth, but their business hasn't been able to gain traction. They haven't got a lot of street cred as it relates to their digital reputation. And so the business can tend to look like it's not really performing when really, I've urged a lot of these guys to just step up their game, as far as getting out and about and just, really being, making a very conscious and designated effort instead of just kind of being comfortable with it to essentially build it within your comfort zone. What I'm asking you to do is get out of your comfort zone, because I had an author who said to me ages ago, he said, your business success is outside your comfort zone. And so you got to actually go get that thing. It's not going to come to you. So, market entry or expansion, and even if you've been in the same ecosystem for the longest time, for you to step up a level and go and break a ceiling, it's going to take a new attitude towards developing your sphere of influence is what I would call that. So, that's I think when you're entering that new market or expanding geographically, depending on where you're at, business development professionals need to detail how you're going to establish a presence. And so, I think if you're breaking into a new revenue threshold, you're going to have to do something in the way of advertising. If you're going to a new area, like I had to when I first came here, I remember I was working for, I think it started when I first came to town. I met a realtor because I was looking for a house to rent. It was about 5 hours from where I was staying with my in-laws. And I had to very quickly, get amongst it and talk to different realtors. And then, there was, and really what it does, it ebbs and flows. So as you make some inroads, things start to open up, things start to develop. So I talked to a realtor. He showed me a couple of houses that I would regard as normal. And then, we come across one that needed a shit ton of work. Fortunately, I had skills. And then what happened was, after I did spend 2 weeks renovating the place, he said, "Oh, you're pretty handy. How about come and doing some work for me for some of my landlords?" So I went and did that. And of course, I'd never been paid so little for what I did. But what I was doing is I was developing my reputation. I was getting to know the real estate, industry around town. I was bumping into builders. And so I started to develop that network of where I was developing my own reputation, but I was starting to break into the industry. And then sure enough, a little whiles later, we've got some pretty decent success with Smith & Sons here. Righto, so that was point number 5. Let me flick over the page here. Point number 6, and this really just plays or segues into this next point, what I just said, strategic partnerships and alliances. I think we're talking about other businesses, not necessarily subs and suppliers within our industry, but certainly subs and suppliers as well. So those 3 entities, I think if you develop a business relationship with people like finance brokers, realtors, even interior designers, architects, who are there's an overlap, there can be a very synergistic relationship established. And that's what I would talk about, strategic partners. I know for me in this business coaching game, I want to develop strategic partnerships with Google and SEO experts, website designers, because I know that they would have builders coming to them who want those specific results. And maybe they talk about, success in their business, and I can maybe get a referral from one of my strategic partners. So that's super important. Point number 7, marketing and branding strategies. I think what it comes down to is you've got to always focus on giving value. Transactions happen as a natural consequence of delivering value. And a perfect example of that would be if you go across to elitebusinessadvisory.com and you want 30 minutes of my time, you won't get 30 minutes of my time. You will get a lot more. Just this week, I like to deliver value at the highest level, and not just time spent, but actually some key strategies and some key tactics around what you can go out and think about and even do tomorrow. And that is a natural segue into me asking for the business as a business coach. And so, like Gary Vee talks about, give value, and then ask for the business with no expectation. So for me sitting here, I give value here on a podcast. What I find is that every so often, somebody in the audience will reach out to me. And then, in some cases, either immediately or soon thereafter, folks will just put their hand up and say, "Hey, I think it's time that we got stuck into a more strategic approach to business development." And then we do business. And so, I want to encourage you as well, when you're talking about marketing and branding, it's all about giving that value first and asking for the business later on down the track, because people do business. Why? They do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And so if you're looking for a reason as to why you do what you do in the way of a lot of seemingly philanthropic type endeavors, such as a podcast, I can sit here and categorically tell you that after 2.5, 3 years of giving value, it gave me the ability to, set up a coaching business that people are really enjoying. So, and I enjoy it as well a lot. It's quite insightful. Point number 8, financial and resource planning. So you're always going to be in position, guys and girls, of either expansion or consolidation. I think you really can't do both at the same time. If you're expanding, that means you're throwing just about all of the money, all except a couple of months overhead. You're really investing a lot in the expansion. There's no guarantees. It's high risk. It's high stress. And you want to be very systemized and understand exactly what you're doing, because if you try and expand and it's on a little bit of a whim or a kind of, I hope this works, odds on is it's going to fail. And so sometimes when you do go, and even when you do have a good plan, sometimes you'll push forward, things don't work out. There is things outside your control that bring about some catastrophic failures and some devastation. You've then got to back up and go into consolidation mode. Consolidation means to make strong that which you have. And I think all through the process, whether you're expanding or whether you are consolidating, you've just got to be patient, and there's some days where I'm just marking time and I'm just going through the motions, but I'm always thinking about, okay, we're in expansion mode. I just got to give it time. Or we're in consolidation mode and there's some repair going on. Right. We just got to be patient with the whole process. So this action plan, The specifics would be around budget, resource allocation, and timelines for each phase of development, whether you're in the expansion or whether you're in consolidation. Point number 9, measuring and monitoring progress. We know how I feel about this. I've got a spreadsheet that's got a lot of the data, everything from the lead generation, year to date that we require to hit our baseline metrics, right across to, our cost per lead, our customer acquisition cost, and our return on advertising spend ratio. So measuring and monitoring, business development activities, you got to track it, you got to measure it to be able to know what's effective. What you don't measure, you can't manage, or what you don't measure, you can't improve. So really the action plan that you'd set up for measuring and monitoring includes the key performance indicators, which is your KPIs, any milestones, which will allow you to regularly assess the performance of whatever the initiative is that you are working on. Right, point number 10, and these all seem to work fairly well hand in hand with each other. Number 10 is continuous development or improvement. What I would subscribe to is that, Gary Vee says ideas are shit, execution's the game. I like the idea of just to initiate, make a start, and then on the fly, we're rinsing, optimizing, and repeating. And so what we want to figure out is what is working. Let's optimize that. What is not working, we want to try and tweak, improve, or detonate, get rid of it altogether. And, that's certainly a massive part of what we're doing. So, including a strategy for a continuous improvement is a massive part of the action plan. And then regular reviews and updates to ensure that the plan remains relevant and adaptable to change in marketing conditions. If you are tracking data that all of a sudden has become redundant or doesn't really serve a purpose, it needs to be jettisoned. You need to get rid of that because, if you look at my board, my spreadsheet or what have you, and I'm looking at this across the group, it's really important that we, pay attention to what's important and not try and just gather everything up unnecessarily. If it's not relative, then get rid of it. The final point here, number 11 out of 11, crisis and contingency planning. So it's all just about that old adage about planning for a rainy day. As much as we think that, if you're in a vein of gold and things are happening really well, it's always prudent, I think, to just ensure that you've got 3 months worth of bank, let's say. You've got a good understanding of what your plan B might be if you needed to really take action and avoid a catastrophic failure or avoid a downturn. I think a lot of the time too, you've got to make those contingency plans for the times in the year whereby the lead gen, say, is not going to be up. And for us, it really starts to slow down early December right through to mid-January. So we've really got to gather up as builders enough inquiry in 11 months to actually make sure that we're busy all year. And I think too, I think when you get enough lead and all of a sudden you've got things where it's banking up and the natural reaction is to just start jobs whenever clients want to start jobs. Part of our, contingency method is to book in advance. Or say no, one of those two things. And so, when we're talking about what we're doing next year, we really want to focus on our project start schedule, look at, what we need to do as far as revenue, look at our average contract value, how many of those contract values do we need to do to hit our revenue target, to ensure that we're profitable, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's part of our management of our business. But this action plan, it should also consider, potential setbacks and crises. There's no question that we don't have a crystal ball that's working, so we never can tell what happens. And anything could happen. Price rises in materials could go up. We don't want to see another COVID happen again. That would be bad. That's what I'm talking about. And they're really things, if you've not got a force majeure. Now, I only heard of that terminology when I came to Canada, but a force majeure clause is saying that something happened within the industry that was outside my control, was either government intervention, war, act of God, things like those things. That they're the kinds of things that really categorize. But at the end of the day, people don't give a shit about your feelings. You've just got to be prepared. And so I think we've got to keep one eye on the great progress that we're making, but simultaneously we've always got to make sure that we're just keeping heads on a swivel. We're just looking left, looking right, making sure our altitude's good, that our wings are level, that we're on course, that our fuel is at an appropriate level, and that our wind speed is good and our altitude is great. So that's really what it comes down to. We just want to be making sure that if things are good, then we are making sure that we are minimizing the amount of threats to our success. So in closing, an action plan is a dynamic tool that evolves as the business development process unfolds. It helps ensure that objectives are met efficiently, resources are used effectively, and progress is tracked. Business development professionals refer to the action plan regularly to stay on course, make adjustments as needed, and ultimately achieve their strategic goals. Righto, guys and girls, to close, if you're on YouTube, you're going to be able to see this. Hopefully it's not out of focus, but this is a book I would ask that you would read as a client of mine, but also if you are wanting to understand, the points around what it takes or what we build action plans around. Mastering the Rockefeller Habits by Vern Harnish is a great audio book, which is where I found it. And then I went out and ordered the hard copy because I love to write in books and put post-it notes and use it as a reference. Absolutely. So, it's important that we educate ourselves, always be learning. The more you learn, the more you earn. And I think over time, and be patient, we underestimate what we can achieve, in 10 years, but we overestimate what you're going to achieve in 1 year. So ensure that you look into action plans in all of those points outlined. That is probably just a bit of an insight and a bit of a basic overview of what is or what needs to be, you need to have an action plan attached to it. But certainly there's probably going to be a few more. Anyway, I hope that helps. Don't forget, Business for Builders VIP. Get across there if you're a good sort. I will let you in. Hit the join button. Hit me up on email, max@elitebusinessadvisory.com. Go check out the website, elitebusinessadvisory.com. If you want to spend 30 minutes with me chatting about a quick strategy and some tactics around what you can do to improve your business tomorrow, absolutely do that. The calendar is a little bit full. You might have a bit of a trick getting in there, but depending on which neck of the woods or which part of the world you're in, you should be able to get an opportunity across there. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe, all that sort of good stuff. Make sure you drop some comments. We would love to hear from you because anything that you give me in the way of feedback, I would love to bring to the show. If there's some things that need to be chatted about or chatted with. And be sure to go and have a laugh on TikTok. We do some pretty crazy stuff there. So have a great day. Build a kick-ass business for real. And I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.